So when you're meeting somebody, understand you're a facilitator of desires. My desire as a property owner is to have my property well taken care of, make me some money, and don't be a headache.
You will hit rock bottom if you do not change something. Why hit rock bottom rather than making a decision to change right now?
We're able to change the reality. So whether it's a good investment or a bad investment is a good learning lesson.
What's going on, STR Nation? This is your host and brother from another mother, Manuel Epani, here with the man himself, Mr. Mike Riley. What's going on, Riley?
I'm doing awesome, man. Pumped for today. We're now through the wildfire, so that the wildfire is like 80% contained. It was about
I mean,
3.5 miles from our house. So as of this week, when we're recording this is on Thursday. This will go out on Monday. It should be contained by Monday, thanks to Mother Nature and some really good firefighters. So, but I learned a lot. Learned a lot about that process and what to do when fire is in the area. And so I'll definitely share that on a training at some point soon.
100%. Yeah, this year you got to learn to what to do when a hurricane comes, and now with the fires, I think you got all natural disasters handled. Don't
Yeah, where's the wood? I'm gonna knock on all wood that's around me here. But definitely a lot of good learning lessons I can share with
Yeah,
everybody.
a
That's for
hundred
sure.
percent, 100%. And so I love the show today. We had a good friend of ours, Adam Avinas, on the show. Adam and I connected through Seekers, obviously, but then we became really good friends through the mastermind with Conway, and he's one of those people that he's really into this material that I've been into, that you've been into, that Mike talks about a lot too, which is just, hey, like, how do we upgrade our self-image? How do we get better at making decisions? And how do we change our life from a perspective of changing our concept of ourselves, changing our desires, and then attracting something completely different than what we are currently experiencing right now? And so it was quite a fun conversation. I love conversations like this, so I would talk like this to people every single day if it was for me. But one of my main things that I loved was the idea of really debunking your current belief system and really allowing yourself to take some time to understand, where does the way you think about things really come from? And if that's not something that is serving you, how do you change it? Like, how do you change the way that you're thinking about yourself or thinking about things that no longer serves you, or maybe has never served you, that you just kind of have had? How do you change that? And so he talks about that. What did you like, Riley?
I mean, I think all of us have some sort of desire of what we want, whether it's another property or more income, or we want to be improve things for our family, that sort of thing. And when I study a lot of successful people, whether it's athletes or whether it's just, people who have made big changes in the world, there's one thing in common, and they all had big goals and big dreams. And I think they all had an open mind on doing things differently in the future. So one tip I'll give everybody for this episode is come with an open mind and come understanding kind of this different viewpoint that we don't talk about all the time. Well, I think we do on this show, but it's really the study of success and the study of successful people all have these traits, whether they do it on autopilot or they do it consciously every single day. So it was a great episode. I took a page of notes just through listening, and I know a lot of the listeners will enjoy it today too.
Yeah, 100%. And yes, we do talk about it all the time. Again, a lot of it is just the fact that 6 years in, man, like that's what makes it work, right? It's hardly ever the mechanical. We can teach the mechanicals like the best, but like, what makes a great F1 driver is who they are inside the helmet more than anything else, right? Like, it's just, and those are one of the greatest examples, because those cars, m- more or less most of the time, they will be comparable to one another, especially those top couple cars. It's like, okay, so how do you explain it? That's all. It's all here, right? So without further ado, let's welcome Adam Avinas onto the show. What's going on, my brother?
My guys, thank you so much for having
Dude.
me. It's It's nice to see you guys. I mean, we see a lot of each other these days, but it's nice to be here. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
I'm super excited. So, for those that don't know who you are, I've had the privilege to hang out with you quite a bit since you used to be part of the team for Secrets, and so kind of tell people the elevator pitch of who's Adam Avinas, or at least right now, right? I'm sure that's a work in progress, but who is he in this moment?
That's a very deep question. Yeah, I mean, I came from the real estate space, which is what had me, end up at Secrets. I once upon a time was selling real estate in Toronto. Built a software company. Through real estate is actually where I found the work I now teach, which is a mindset and manifestation coach. So I help entrepreneurs create a quantum leap in their life through understanding the mind and what truly creates results, which is, as E would know, and Mike, you too, what's in your subconscious mind. And you guys are very aligned with that, which I love. Everyone in this community is pretty deep into that work, and it's what's produced every single result in my life. So that's what I teach people how to do and where I focus my energy these days.
Hmm. Okay. And so, for people that heard that and they're like, "Ah, this show is gonna be on the woo-woo side of things," help them understand kind of like why you said that everything comes from the sub. Like, help people understand what are we talking about today.
Yeah, that's a great thing to point out there. When I first found this work, I thought it was so woo-woo as well. With my story, I was making fun of the manifestation coach who came to speak at my brokerage before she came in. And to make it as logical as possible for the people, who sit in the left brain side of things, your beliefs and who you believe yourself to be will dictate everything that you experience. When I first found this work, I was a nervous 21-year-old kid, and the people on the other side of the phone, when I would call people, could hear that. So no matter how many calls I did, that was still dictating my results. I was sending that message subconsciously to other people. And I would do 100 calls a day, but it didn't matter how many calls I would make if I didn't fix that internal game. After hiring my first mindset and manifestation coach, I worked on believing myself to be a different person. And when I dove into this work and I really started to change what my concept of myself was, I started to get on these phone calls as someone who sold tens of millions of dollars of real estate every single month like it was nothing. And just that belief alone had me triple my income in 8 months when I hired my first coach. So, even in a very logical sense, I think that some people out there can understand that who you show up as and who you believe yourself to be will change the results you can get, even with less output, which is crazy.
And so, if somebody is listening to this and has that moment, because to me, right, the first kind of step in really changing life is that you willing. Like, are you willing to actually, first of all, listen? And are you willing to actually put your on thoughts and belief up for a challenge? And are you willing to change? Because most people want change, but they're not willing to do the thing, right? Like, we all understand what is needed, and most people, in my mind, are not willing, right? And so, if you have somebody that's now listening to this, and their first response is, well, that must be nice, or like, oh, well, yeah, but you don't know my story, Adam. You don't know what I'm going through, Mike, right? Like, what would you tell those people in terms of like, how do you deal with your current real shit, right? For lack of better terms, like the current stuff that is really going on in my life? How do I deal with this and live like something else when these things are really real, right? Like, I have bills, I am struggling, I am still driving trucks, and I don't have time to do this stuff. And all you're telling me is think about, like, change your concept of yourself. You're like, yes, but I am stuck in this truck working 10 hours. What do you tell them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to get really real with people here too. This is something I've been starting to share for the first time ever. I met someone at a conference who shared a similar story with me, and it opened my mind. I came from a very hard place. Like, I actually tried to take my life shortly before I found this work. I was dead broke for years. And you will hit rock bottom if you do not change something. Why hit rock bottom rather than making a decision to change right now, is the first thing that I'll say right off the bat. The second thing is, you said something important, like willingness is huge, right? Because being willing to change is the first step in change. And being willing to face yourself is the first thing that needs to happen to initiate true change. Now, when you can look within and finally just take ownership over the fact that no one is producing your life other than you, you can start to dig into what actually is producing your current results, because there is a narrative, there are beliefs, there are things that you're telling yourself underneath the surface, and that is what's producing everything in your life. And when you finally take ownership over that, you can take as little as like 30 minutes a day to start to make headway in changing your life. But it all starts with you just facing the fact that you are the only one producing that. And from there, like I said, even 30 minutes a day can start to make, move that needle, if you want to think about it like that.
Yeah. And so just to continue, right? I really want to make this useful for people and kind of put myself in the position from all the calls that I have had and that you have had. And same with right? Like we do this all the time. And so really let people hear some of the conversations that I've had. So we're going to kind of like role play it, right? And so a lot of the times when I tell this exact same thing to people, people tell me, we're like, yeah, but that's not true because I don't want this thing and this thing keeps happening, right? It's like every time I catch a break, something happens, right? How often have you heard that? Or every time, right? Like, or it's, Adam, it is not that, like, I don't want this. And I've been journaling about it. I've been journaling, like, I want this and this. I want this to change. And then yet this is still the same thing. What would you tell them?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's always something producing your results. So like I said, there's some narrative within there. And I'll be honest, a lot of times it does take a coach or a community who can hold up that mirror to you to really help you understand what that is, right? If you're consistently seeing some setback or something come into your life, it can't be there unless it harmonizes with something in your consciousness. That's just how the world works. So again, that true ownership of understanding that will be huge. And when you start to also just completely change the perspective on how you are even perceiving these quote unquote setbacks, that in itself changes a lot. I always tell people, if you ever see an uptrending graph, right? Like there's an investment you love and it's just pumping. Mike Riley's real estate portfolio right now just pumping. And if you look at that uptrending graph, it's not just straight up. It's up and then a little pullback, up, a little pullback, up. And when you start to see those challenges or setbacks as simply tests that are preparing you for the next level, you don't have to beat yourself up so much about it, right? Like it's actually what's required for you to get to that level that you desire. And when you take that perspective, it doesn't have to be this big crumbling of, your vibration and your ego and all of this stuff. When you face it, it's like, oh, this is just another test. What a pleasure that I'm being prepared for another level.
Yeah, I know we're all tennis guys here, so there's something I saw about Roger Federer. He was doing a a talk. I don't know where it was, but he said, I've won all these majors, pretty much the second or third best tennis player of all time. In my mind, I think he is the best tennis player.
I agree.
He's my childhood like idol. But he said I won 51% of the points in my career, and I won all these majors, I won all these tournaments, and I won 51%. That means I lost 49%. It's like you have to go through those spurts, without new life or without death, there's not new life. Without downtimes, there's not uptime. So it's just like you said, I think for me, it's a big realization that we can create those in the stories that we tell ourselves. And no matter whether they're past stories that have happened to us or maybe they're past stories that happened for us, that we're able to change the reality. So whether it's a good investment or a bad investment, or maybe that bad investment is a good learning lesson, right? and I think we tell we tell ourselves a story, and I've got a question for you on this too, Adam. Is like uh, our past experiences, I think, build up and create our current beliefs. And so when we want to make a change in our income or a change in our health, but we have to create a new belief of ourselves. And so how, like, what steps do you take to create that new belief? What do you believe?
Yeah, 100%. So, first thing, when you're changing beliefs, it's always good to shift into something. Like you want your beliefs to be in alignment with whatever life you're trying to create. So you have to be very intentional and know what kind of life you want to create so that everything can be shifted to be in alignment to that. That right there is just so important before we even get to how you change your beliefs. It's like, what are you changing them to and why is so important. And, from there, I think that we can get into in a second how to input a new belief, but I think debunking your old beliefs is massive for this process. And I don't see a lot of people talk about it. But when you understand the fact that you have picked up this belief from somewhere out in the world, right? It came from a parent, teachers, society, someone, and it doesn't mean it's yours. It's just something you emotionally consented to as truth from hearing it repetitively out in the world. So when you have that awareness and understand that alone, it kind of opens you up to being like, okay, I can maybe face these things and realize they're not a part of me. They are not me itself. It's just something I've picked up that I can also let go of too. And that alone helps you let go. From there, inputting a new belief, you do it the same way the first ones came in. You repetitively emotionalize something through repetition of thought until it becomes, dropped in one with your truth, if that makes sense. And if you're doing that intentionally, like we said, in a way that's in alignment with the life that you want, you can have anything, honestly, anything.
I love that. And I agree with you. I haven't heard the concept of debunking your beliefs a lot. But one of the things that I noticed when you're speaking, and probably the listener heard as well, you said emotionalize, and there was quite a bit of emphasis when you said emotionalize. So tell us what that means, right? And like, why is that important?
Yeah, I mean, our subconscious mind is where our beliefs and our programming live. That's where all of our automated thoughts, feelings, actions are produced from. And our subconscious mind is our feeling mind, it's our emotional mind. So if you think of what a belief is an idea that you have emotionally accepted. Therefore, it becomes your truth. You have emotionally accepted something as your truth. So if you're going to input new beliefs, you have to emotionalize it. It has to drop into your emotional mind. And it's one of the key parts of this work. Now, I love also looking at the science side because you said, why does that matter? I tackled that in one sense, but let's go down the science road for like just 1 second here quickly. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about how if you think of the quantum physics, if anyone's into that kind of stuff, every single outcome for our life exists in the here and now as a electromagnetic frequency. Your thoughts hold an electric charge. Your feelings hold a magnetic charge. Therefore, your vibration and therefore what you experience is dictated by what you are thinking and feeling in a dominant sense of what your thoughts and feelings are on a day-to-day basis. So the feeling is a massive part of it, from actually getting it into your programming to even understanding how we can change our vibration on the science side of things to experience those different outcomes for our life that we desire to experience.
So from that token, would you say that your feelings attract what you think about? So if you're looking at it from that perspective, it's like, okay, what are your feelings? And in this case, you're talking about your feelings about yourself, right? Like, what are your feelings about yourself allowing you to attract from the quantum field? So from the field of the infinite that is out there, what are your feelings of yourself allowing you to bring it.
100%. Exactly. And you said something important there. Your feelings are attracting. Your feelings actually are, it's proven, a magnetic charge. Thoughts are electric, feelings are magnetic. That's where the electromagnetic frequency is created. So when you think about that, you're always attracting. How do you feel about yourself now? And going back to my example before, it's very easy. I feel like people can see that picture. Me believing that I was not, like, emotionally believing that I would not be taken seriously in real estate because I was a 21-year-old real estate agent. And that then is therefore the results I would attract. People not taking me seriously. They could feel that vibration versus when I changed how I felt, my concept about myself on an emotional level, they were actually receiving a different message subconsciously from that. And I started attracting those results, therefore.
Mm, I love that. And so if somebody heard you and is like, okay, cool, emotionalize it. How do I emotionalize something? Like, do I go out in the forest and get chased by a bear? Like, how do I make, and then like when I'm scared, I'm like, okay, I'm successful, I'm rich, I'm wealthy. And like how, or how do you get that without a life changing experience or moment happening, right? Because I know that that's where it naturally comes from. That's why a lot of trauma, it's so deeply kind of attached and bonded to us because it was such an emotionally strong, charged experience that in that space, right? If we think about like the space that something creates, in the space of that moment, you attached all of those stories about yourself. And so if you want to
Mhm.
reprogram it, how do people emotionalize things to change?
That's a great question. And it's funny that you brought up the thing about being chased by a bear and the traumatic events, because to start this process of emotionalizing something, you actually have to be in an emotionally regulated state. So if you are in this fight or flight, space, which a lot of people are day to day, unfortunately, like little things trigger them at work, their partners, whatever it is, the bills that come in trigger them, put them into this elevated fight or flight state. And when you're in that state, you are not able to create a different emotion within. When your body is in that state, it is constantly looking out into the world, looking for threats, because that's what we genetically have that because that's what we faced back in the day. So the first thing that people need to understand is you need to learn how to calm your body down, your nervous system, make it feel safe. One of the most fantastic ways to do this is through the breath. A few big deep inhales into your chest center does amazing things for you. And Mike brought up Federer. Like, imagine how much stress and different, things those kinds of athletes face out in the world, being on the worldwide screen, and they can keep that inner state of calmness and peace, that flow state, no matter how much pressure is on the outside. So learning how to keep that pressure on the outside and create that ideal state within is an incredible first step. And then once you're in that state, it's called a coherent state, right? Most people live in an incoherent state. There's disorder in your mind. But once you can create that coherent state for yourself, then you can consciously choose the feelings that you are attaching to different ideas. Now, if we're thinking of feelings, we want to be intentional about it. So, what would be the feeling of, that would attract a life that you desire? Well, gratitude is an incredible, elevated emotion. And if you mix gratitude with an idea of a life you want to desire, I'm so happy and grateful now that I already make $1 million a month. You're now mixing that thought with an emotion that says we have it. And that is what will start to emotionalize it in a way that will allow us to be a vibrational match to that life out in the quantum field.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm. I love these conversations. I know I've been ranting a lot. So I want to give Riley a chance to also unmute himself. He has some words in. My bad, bro. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. So I geek a little bit.
I don't
That's a
know if I
great
lost
talk.
anyone there too. So like, if you guys need me to break that down more simple, let me know. But it's
I
deep
think we
stuff.
can. I think we can break it down. I mean, I'm just thinking about some of the best investments I've made. Um, each one there was a time that I can look back to, kind of like a movie, where I remember exactly the point of change. Like for instance, the probably the most recent one I bought, I was looking I was looking for like 6 months, and I was looking in 5 different markets, and I was like, "This, I wanna look in this market, and this market, and this market, and this market." And then I found none of them. Like, I found there was no properties available that I was gonna invest in, and I was just I was in that fight or flight mode because I was just looking and doing all these things, and then when I finally sat down and I was like, "Alright, what are my what's my current belief? What do I really want out of this next property?" And I just sat there and just sat in that feeling, and then I just started writing stuff down. And I thought about the things that I made in previous investments that I really liked, and I thought about more things that I wanted in my next property. It was gonna have a view, it was gonna be in the certain neighborhood that I wanted, it was gonna be a four-bedroom place, it was gonna need some work, and those are really the main 4 things. So I whittled down 6 different markets in a wide range to really 1 market and 4 things that I wanted, and I kid you not, 3 days later, I got a text from my realtor. Once I gave her that criteria, I got a text from my realtor, and she said, "I got a house that you wanna see." It was listed in the newspaper. Yeah,
Wow.
right? And, and then I was like, "Go to it, take some pictures, FaceTime me when you're there." And that day we put in an offer, and it's been our best performing property since. And it was all because I took time to sit down, think about what I wanted. I wasn't in fight or flight mode. I emotionalized what I wanted to because I felt myself seeing that view. I felt myself walking through the property and what it was going to look like, what it was going to look like in the fall with all the colors, and just got so much clearer on what I actually wanted. And then, I mean, my I remember my feelings went from stressed out because there's so many different things I wanted to do to I've made that decision that this is what I want and I'm gonna go get it. And 3 days later, it happened. So it just it happens not it happens for everything. For real estate investing, we can make translation or correlations to athletes and sports. And some people I feel do it subconsciously. So some people just already do it. All of us do it. All of us do it without even knowing it right now. Everything that we've attracted is because of this method. Is we can create anything that we want. But I think a lot of people don't really understand that. Some people are like, "Oh, this happens because of luck." Or this happens because of some circumstance. Maybe their family's got money, or or their family, they're with a really good business partner or something like that. That's not it at all. It's their current beliefs and their future beliefs of themselves that really makes change. And I think it's not often talked about enough, um, especially in real estate investing too. Like there's not a lot of people that are teaching this and correlating it back to real estate investing as well, teaching the X's and O's, but also teaching the work that really makes change faster, which is really up here in your beliefs and in your mindset.
100%. And what you said a couple things that are so important there that I would love to unpack. First thing I have to say is that, when you sat down and got very clear on that exact property you wanted, you actually painted such a great picture for me. I could see the view with the leaves and everything. I love that. Um, Most people don't realize the end result of every single experience is an emotion. You got clear on what it would feel like to be in that property with the view, and that in itself was a different emotion of the view with the different colors than some of the other places you looked at. So behind every desire, behind everything that you want in life, there is an essence or a feeling or an emotion. With you with the trees, it could have been tranquility, peace of mind. Like there's something behind it there. And that is the emotion we need to connect to. And the second thing that you said that's so important there is that, you know, like you mentioned at the beginning, I was inside the STR Secrets team once upon a time. I was there, I don't know how long it's been, but we could see the correlation. And I had been in this work for, 8 years now at this point. And it was so cool to connect with you guys because you actually understood this work. Whereas most real estate investing communities are just like, here's the playbook, go run with the playbook. But then they're not actually getting to the root cause of people's results. They're not actually addressing the self-image and how people are emotionalizing things, what their beliefs are and what it's creating. So to be able to mix the tactical, which you guys crush, with actually bringing in this piece and understanding what is producing people's results and helping them connect to that feeling of the end goal, which is what they actually desire, is the feeling. It's not just the money. There's a feeling behind it. That is so key in actually helping people move the needle and produce real results in their life. Because without that, it's just a blueprint. You do need both pieces, which is why I love that you guys add that in, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, we have what's like 6 calls a week in the mastermind, so and 5 of them are tactical, but the best call, the one that has the most amount of attendees on it every single week is the mindset call. It's the call on Tuesdays at 4 o'clock now. Eastern time, and all we talk about is how to get clear on what you want, and it's for properties. It could be for a co-hosting company, like what market do you want to be in, or also what type of house, what type of owner do you want to work with, and sitting down and get very clear on that. And then, it always starts with that end goal in mind, like you said, that end feeling has to be felt first before you can get it. So
Yeah. Like, what are we going? What are we doing this for? What are we growing towards? And I was talking about this with E recently because I love like really digging into people's why. Because people will be like, oh, I have this goal to make 100 grand a month. Well, you ask them why. Oh, for, financial security. And so I could do what I want. It's like, okay, well, why? Like, what is what you want? And as you continue to dig in more and more and more, you'll realize the true essence, the true feeling we're trying to connect to is so different than the initial thing. It's not the $100,000. It's not even this financial security. It's like, some big mission they want to do, or to be able to help their family, or to pass on wealth to their kids. If you continue to dig in deeper, there's always something further in there that the true desire is. And there's just a bunch of other desires stacked on top of that are a little more shallow. But when you can get right into the heart of it, it's a completely different fuel source to be, operating from. It's beautiful, honestly.
Mm. What would you say to people? Because you and I had this conversation yesterday. Um, but what would you say to people, right, when you're having those conversations? And this applies to yourself, right? As you feel yourself thinking or saying certain things, feeling the emotion that arises within you. But then also when you go meet, let's say you're going to meet with a prospect that has a property that you want to manage. Because for me, it's the same thing, right? Like as you go and meet with people, you're there to facilitate a desire, right? So as you're meeting with somebody, you're there to help them. An owner picks property managers based on who he or she thinks is going to facilitate their desire the best, right? My desire as a property owner is to have my property well taken care of, make me some money, and don't be a headache. So when you're meeting somebody, understand that you're a facilitator of desires. And so when you're having that conversation with them, so if you were going out to co-host and you're talking to owners, would you approach a conversation as like, hey, like, what is your guys' goal? And then start approaching the same way? And what can people be looking out for in terms of like finding that vein, right? Like the emotional vein. Like, how do you know where you're like, I have something, right? Like the grave diggers, right? They get digging, 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 and have the moment from the movie, right? Where the shovel just hits the wood, right? And we all kind of look at each other and we're like, it's here. We found it, right? Like, let's. So what would you tell people?
Yeah, first of all, that's just the best image. I love that, with like the shovel.
Right, you can hear it, right? Like you could see it. Like,
Yeah. And we all look around. And that's even cool too. You'll see on their own face when you hit that moment, right? Just like you said there, with everyone looking around. Um, and you just hit the nail on the head too. So many people who are trying to build a business, they're always thinking about like, oh, I got to get this for my portfolio. No, try and understand why someone needs a property manager. If that's the example we're using, like, what are they looking for? What is the feeling they actually want? And, something to help get other people to be vulnerable and open up so that you can go deeper to get to that vein is being vulnerable yourself. Like when I have conversations, I'm very, straight up with people, and they can tell I come from a place of love. But, I'll say, like, listen, like, my job is to really understand what you want so that I can help you with that. So, like, what do you really want? And then those probing questions, being genuinely curious. So everything we're talking about today, you have to remember other people also have desires and a paradigm, and you have to get beyond that paradigm to understand the true desires. And you just said, I love that image you said, because when you ask the initial question, someone will give you almost an answer rehearsed in their head, like the surface level. It's like, yeah, this is why I need a property manager. And if you get curious and continue to ask questions and probe, you will see their face change. You will see them start to think a little more. And it's that internal work you're actually helping them through without them even realizing it. That is helping them realize, oh, yeah, I want this for this is the actual reason. And their face changes. They connect to a true feeling. And just like when, you said the shovel hits the wood and everyone looks around, that's what happens. When you ask the questions and probe, you'll see their face light up. You'll see them start to think and their emotions change. And that's how you know you've gotten down to what the real thing is.
I love that. So to switch gear a little bit, we all saw this past couple of weeks this guy's video go viral on IG or TikTok with his morning routine. And if you haven't, please watch it. It's hilarious. There's this guy that has this crazy morning routine, gets up at 3:45 a.m., does the bottle of Saratoga water into like this ice bucket, right? And tell me about, because for some reason people love this idea, right? The miracle morning. And I have conflicting feelings because for me, what has been my truth now, right? 12 years into personal development is this. I don't care what works for other people. I only care what works for me. And I also understand that over time, my routines have had to shift and adjust based on my choices. And I've made this very clear. Like lately, I now have some other new people in my life, and part of them being in my life means that I get to make different choices. And one of my choices now is that I take Julian to the bus stop at 7:30 a.m. every morning. And so now that comes with some consequences. That means my routine has had to change. So help people understand the value of routine when it comes to this work. And if somebody tells you, look, Adam, I don't have 4 hours to do a morning routine, what would you have them focus on? Like, what would you say in your life in terms of routine has been the most changing aspect of things that has really helped you?
This is such a good question. And I have to also say I agree with you in the fact that everyone's morning routine will be specific to them. I don't think that there's a one clear-cut answer for that. But I will say that I think there are some main things you need to hit on in that morning routine. First of all, I want to say, a morning routine can be as short as like 30 minutes or 40 minutes. So like, even the little things that you can do in the morning to align yourself and get yourself in a good energy can completely change your day, your trajectory in the day, and then therefore your trajectory in a life when you're doing these little things day after day. These little tiny habits that you implement can create massive change over time. So to anyone even struggling with these little habits, understand that is what the back of massive successes are built on. Now, for me, I mean, I'll just say personally, again, everyone can take this with a grain of salt. I always think mind, body, soul. If I can touch those three within the first hour of my day, and that's all I like. I want an hour-long morning routine. And then I'll add stuff on top of that for the days that I have time, but I keep it short and sweet so that even on the hectic days, I can stick to that. And then on the other days, I can add in more things as I see fit. So, mind, body, soul, if I could do something for my mind, for my body, and my soul. So to break down what I do, for my soul, I think of it as is visualization, meditation and visualization. Now, we've talked about emotionalizing ideas here. You visualizing your dream life is the most productive thing you can do first thing in the morning. It will get you into that energy. And when you first wake up, your brain waves are actually at a slower pace, meaning that it is like a direct route to the subconscious mind. So either visualizing or journaling first thing in the morning is huge. Now, personally, I'm really big into growth, so I always read shortly after I wake up as well. So that's for my mind. And then I do something for my body. So I usually go on a walk with my wife. And then, like I said, on the days where I do work out, which would be outside of my normal everyday morning routine, I'll hit the gym as well. But just at a bare minimum, I'm getting on a walk that morning. So that in itself, in my opinion, is enough. But I just really want to harp on what I said there. Waking up and connecting to your dream life, feeling gratitude for having experienced it, whether visualization, journaling, saying your gratitude out loud, whatever that is, writing down your goals as if you've accomplished them, that in itself will start to align you to that life. And if you can just get that in, which, like I said, can literally be as short as like 15 minutes if you want, that will completely change your life right there. And I do apologize. I do not dunk my head in a bucket of ice Saragota soda water.
You
I'm
do,
pretty sure Mike Riley probably
you
did,
do live in Canada.
but
Probably just open the window and it's kind of like the same effect. Most of
yeah. So my morning walk is for.
Love it. So Adam, I want to be respectful of your time. So for people that do want to learn more about you and want to understand more, and they're like, okay, I do see that this is probably the thing that is in the way to me leveling up and actually making a quantum leap in 2025. Where can they find you, follow you? Give us all the good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very active on Instagram, so if you go check out there, yeah, check me out there. It's at Adam Avinas, and I post a lot of valuable content on this stuff, from the deep quantum physics work all the way to the high level, more logical stuff. I actually also created like a small masterclass for the people listening, for the people who are starting to wake up to the fact that this is what causes their results. So we'll leave that in a link here if that's cool. I'll just, the link for that will be linked in this podcast here for people to get a little dose of this training and how to actually start creating that change from within.
Love it. And so the last question that we ask all of our guests is, what's your number one secret to success with short-term rental?
This is so good. We already talked about it, but I have to harp on it again. The number one key to success is connecting to the true emotion or why that you actually want. And I'll say that in two ways. First, using your proper fuel source and understanding what you actually want and connecting to that life that you actually want. And if you're talking to, property owners who want their property managed, I had a small portfolio as well, and I had won over a lot of other big property managers because I was connecting to the owner's true why and feelings behind why they wanted a property manager. So when you can get to the real cause of all of results, your own, and understand how other people operate and what they want, everything will change.
Love it. Riley, any last thoughts?
No, man, I think that's a great. I always tell people, write down your goal every single day. Write it down, emotionalize it, feel it, put it in the world, and good things will happen.
100%. 100%. Well, I know you guys are going to find lots of value from these episodes, and Riley and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Ciao, guys.